Welcome, Soaring Hammer members and Mandalorian Merc members and YouTube fans. It's Ithaca here, and today I'm going to do a little storyline on some of the Mandalorians that were made here while we were deployed in Iraq. And the three characters we'll be talking about is Ithaca. Well, actually, correction, there are four total. Ithaca, Dolab Mendo, Arufu Carvorian, and Hokuno Beskaram. Okay. First of all, please check out soaringhammer.com and also forum.soaringhammer.com. And please also check out the mandalorianmercs.com. It's a costume club, excellent club to belong to. But be sure you want to be an actual Mandalorian prior, an official Mandalorian prior to joining the forum, and just read a lot, research, have thick skin for critiquing, and you can go a long way on that forum. This is a little shout out here for the Arquette clan, which all three of us belong to. This is 3 out of 5 suits right here. On the left you see Arufu Carvorian, then in the middle you see Hokuno Beskaram, and of course Dolab Mendo to the right. The two you do not see is my wife's armor and my other armor, my assassin known as Ithaca. For starters, on the left is Randall Jones's armor, and that is an assassin. In the middle, that is Phil Sanders, and he is wearing a he's actually a slicer, but he's a scavenger. His father was an armor maker, and to the right is a suit that's not an average suit you see. It's a late era Crusader, and so without further ado, let's get into the introduction here. This is the some of the sketch work. This is by my buddy Tony. He drew this up. This is one of the sketch work for my assassin Mando known as Ithaca. And I'm showing these because the suit is not yet made. I have all the parts, but I'm waiting to home on leave to make it. And we have some more sketches here by this one's by Courtney. This is actually, I think, the first concept drawn up. Courtney was helping me out with the project, so it was one of the sketches she came up with. And Danielle came up with this sketch, and all of these, none of these are wrong. They were all concepts because I still did not have the parts, but it was a general idea of what I wanted. And then let's get into the characters we have here. This first character here, this is Randall Jones, also known as Arufu Carvorian. And the storyline is going to integrate how all three of these characters, or correction, all 4 of the characters come into play, minus my wife's, because we have not yet added her into the storyline yet, because I want to talk to her about that. As an assassin, he was my apprentice, and I had told him originally, to be a true assassin you need to kill love. If you can do it with love and cut out emotion, you will be the ultimate assassin. He was close to his final stages of becoming a master, and he's got a brother, one and only brother, that is his only family left, and that was his mission that I gave him, was to kill his one and only brother. And Arufu decided that why go beyond, or why just go with killing love? Why not be a true master and kill your previous master? Because if you can beat your master, therefore you are better than him. So he kind of betrays me, and he decides that he's going to set up a plan. Keep in mind that this was not Arufu's first armor, and I'm going to explain that. One of the nights, my character Ithaca is sitting down, and he is cleaning his armor, doing some repairs to his weapons and stuff like that, and he left his guard down, which was his one and only mistake. And when he did that, Arufu comes by and actually attacks Ithaca. And Arufu is actually in his armor, and Ithaca is not. Arufu is ready for this. He's got the plan. Ithaca is not. So they struggle. They fight. Eventually, Arufu takes a dagger and he impales Ithaca in the side, and Ithaca manages to roll off and run off. And as he runs, he leaps out a window, and as Rufu's blasting a few rounds at him from his blaster, and Ithaca manages to fall into a nearby river, which is flowing down past his domicile. And Arufu decides, he looks out the window and he waits. And he's just waiting to blast me as soon as I pop up out of the water, and I don't. And this is where this is the beginning to Arufu's mistake. He assumed that I was dead, and he takes my armor. So the current armor you see there is my old armor. According to storyline, of course, he made this armor. Jones did. So he is now wearing my assassin armor, and he considers himself the master. And over some time, I'm not going to get too far into his storyline. That's for him to cover. But that's the connection between me and Arufu, or Ithaca and Arufu. Now, next, some time goes by. No given a set amount of time, really. But some time has gone by, and I start to heal, pride and physically. And I already know that I need new armor. So I go to a planet called Tatooine, where there is a armor maker with the last name Beskaram that is on this home planet, who managed to have some of the also precious metal to make some Mandalorian armor. Very hard to come by, basically off of Mandalore, but he managed to have some stashed in emergency cases, for emergency cases. Well, I track this man down, and he has a family, but he decides to take on my project. At this time, I am armorless, so he builds my armor for me. And when he thinks he's satisfied, he builds a prototype helmet first, and then he builds the actual armor. And he invites me over to finally see through the project and try on the armor and test it out. Well, as an assassin, I know there's already one loose end out there, one person who knows who I am, and that is Arufu. So I decide at this point, no more loose ends. I don't want anybody to know who I am, so I already planned on killing Mr. Beskaram. And I go there. I put on most of the armor. The only thing I do not have on is my bucket, my helmet. And we talk face to face, and I betray him because I'm tying up loose ends, and I kill him. I just shoot him in the head, and I walk off. And as I turn around to walk off, I see a young man, late teens, standing there, and it turns out that is Hokuno, which is Philip Sanders. And he's standing by the door, and he looks at me, and he's got this look. He just looks in my eyes. He's got this look of fear and hatred mixed together. And I don't waste any time. As an assassin, I don't waste time. So I shoot him in the upper left portion of his torso, and I actually sever his left arm. And I walk over his dead body, and I left for dead body, and he's no threat to me. And I leave. And over time, he heals, and he actually builds. Now, he was an apprentice for his father, so he learned how to make armor, but he never finished his training. He was young, and it takes many, many years to master it. So he's got the ability to scrap pieces together, but not forge his own. So he takes bits and pieces from other people's armors and takes scrap, and hence he's a scavenger, and why his armor looks so drastically beat up and just scrap-like. He manages to have his arm rebuilt, which is why he has a full robotic left arm, and he's on a mission to destroy me. Now, he's a very intellectual and insane person. He's not a true fighter, so he has to fight me with his wits, and his mind is very twisted, very tainted, very dark. And so he's out on the prowl looking for me. And eventually he meets up with a character that he feels as though has a similarity in armor. And they actually fight. And he did not beat him by brute strength. He managed to... during the fight, there's a lot of trials where to go through, like booby traps and things like that, and sacrifices. There's a lot of mental games involved, So it pretty much wore Arufu down real bad. Arufu was really beat up and really weak at the time when Hokuno actually confronted him and to fight him. So they do, and he takes him down. And when he takes him down, that's when he wants to see the face of his father's killer one more time. So he takes the helmet off, and that's when he realizes that it was not, in fact, Ithaca. It was, in fact, Arufu. So he lets him live, and they start talking. And he's got questions, so many questions on why his armor looks similar. And then Arufu goes into the storyline of how he was his apprentice, Ithaca's apprentice, and how he with the armor, and they make a pact because Arufu is not strong enough to beat Ithaca himself, and neither is Hokuno. So they decide to put the brains and the brawn together, and they try to take on me as a pair. So now Arufu knows that Ithaca's alive and after him, and of course Hokuno is after Ithaca as well. So they do go after him. There's a few fights in between where where they don't win, but they don't lose either. They get away, but eventually they do trap Ithaca, and they fight Ithaca, and they destroy Ithaca, and they continue on separately with their lives. Now, about approximately in human years, approximately 20 years down the road, is when the next storyline is introduced for Dola Mendo, which is a spelled modification of Blood Demon. And Dola Mendo is, and I'll show you a picture. There is Dola Mendo right there. Dola Mendo. This is very strange because it's Crusader armor. It's very, very old armor compared to Arufu and Hokuno and even Ithaca. But it's 20 years in the future, so this armor has been hidden, well hidden, by some high-ranking Mandalorians, and the armor was eventually stolen by a female, name unknown, race unknown. She is believed to be a Mandalorian as well, and she eventually resurrects Ithaca in the body, or in the armor in his Crusader armor. Now when he's resurrected, his memory's wiped, and he doesn't remember who he is, and that's why he goes by the new name Dola Mendo. And he has this urge, like he's looking for something or someone, and he doesn't know what it is. He's just following his instinct. And he, with a new upgraded heavy armor and having heavy weapons, being an old assassin, he doesn't know that he was an assassin, but he's got natural muscle memory, natural skills, and he becomes an ultimate killing machine, having the skills of an assassin, but the armor of a heavy weapons crusader. So that introduces Dola Mendo, and there's gonna be a few little stories written in between about who the girl is and all that good stuff, and the link between the three eventually will evolve again. And when it does, there you'll see the trio together. You have Arufu, and you have Hokuno, and to the right you have Dola Mendo. And eventually, all three will fight again. Now, imagine a scale, okay? A scale from two scales, a left and a right, both from 0, the highest point 100. When Ithaca was against one of these characters, Ithaca was at 100%, whereas one of these characters might have been at like 75%. Ithaca was always their strength meters. So you have Ithaca at 100% and one of these characters at 75. Well, in order to beat him, they join forces, so that puts Ithaca at 100%. But then it bumps the other two up to about 150%. So their scale increased. That's how they were able to beat him. But now with his new upgraded armor and weapons, Ithaca bounces back up to about 200%. So even though these guys fight him 2-on-1, they still cannot beat him. He is just too powerful with the knowledge base he has, skills he has, and the armor and weapons that he has. But they do confront him, and they do go to fight him. And that's when you run into the first encounter, which is Arufu and Mando face to face. And the struggle goes on for a little bit. The fight goes on. I'll work out the details later on. But eventually, Arufu goes down. And Dolob goes for the final strike when Arufu submits. And as a token of his of his retreat, his surrender, he in return gives back. Because the first time they originally killed off Ithaca, they took his helmet as a trophy, and as a token of his gratitude for letting him live, he gives him back his original assassin helmet. And so now Mendo has his original armor, or original helmet anyway, and original armor, if you want to play it that way. So that explains a little bit about the continuing fight there. Now the fight still continues between Mendo and Hokuno, and Ithaca Mendo manages to take the weapon from Hokuno during the fight. They go about the fight. They're shooting, the blasting, they're stabbing, doing whatever, and he beats him down. And eventually, he beats him down enough into submission, and in a sense, they kind of wiped the slate clean eventually, because a death begot a death, and betrayal got betrayal. It was unfair how they destroyed me in the. He got revenge for his father, and then by killing him, but they tag teamed him, which made the fight unfair, which led him back to want his revenge back, and eventually, instead of the war keep going on and on and on, eventually they wiped the slate clean. Now we can write stories in between as well, and that pretty much explains 4 characters. And like I said, my wife's character will be written in sooner or later, once I talk to her about how she wants to write him in. We might portray her as a character that resurrects Mendo. She might be the character that heals Hokuno. We have a lot more people from the Arquette clan. We have more assassins. We have a medic, actually, that's going to be coming into play. And we have a hostile environment Arctic Mando. We have other assassins, if they said that already, and other mercs and stuff like that. So, storyline for Arquette can go on a long way, and we eventually would like to include the Arquette, like all the Arquette members into an Arquette storyline about how they all integrate and how they all know one another. And eventually, because us 3 are military, so eventually when we move on, we'll move on to different clans, and that storyline can progress as a movement in the timeline to another area, and start including other clans, where eventually, with all the movements going around throughout the years of being part of Mandalorian Mercs, the storylines can stretch out into other clans, and eventually you'll have a lot of characters that can integrate into one huge story, and that's how it will work out. So this is Ithaca from SoaringHammer.com. Please check it out, along with forum.soaringhammer.com, and be sure to check out MandalorianMercs.com. And remember, if we can do it, so can you.